Have you ever had your plants smothered in those sticky crawling aphids? It is not a pleasant experience, is it? However, spraying harsh chemicals on the plants you are going to eat is rarely a smart move. So what should you do about it? Well, there are 7 ways smart gardeners tackle aphids. Follow these and avoid the despair of failure. There are literally hundreds of different types of aphid, including some of the most common, such as the black bean aphid or black fly, which often affects my broad beans, though they can affect other beans as well. And then there are green fly or rose aphids on, would you believe it? Roses, cabbage aphids on cabbage family crops, woolly aphids on apples, peach aphids on peach trees, and the list goes on. They come in black, green, white, gray, and even pink. And while most species are generalists, there are plenty that target specific plants as well. And aphids can spread like wildfire, spreading disease throughout the garden. The good news is that no matter how many species there are, the way to deal with them is essentially the same across the board. So once you have cracked it with one species, you have cracked it with them all. Don't worry, I have got your back. Aphids are absolutely tiny and soft-bodied at around 1/10 of an inch or a maximum of 3 millimeter long, and they are often very well disguised. Like here, you can barely see it. How they work is they gather on soft growth, they go into leaf crevices, along stems, and on the undersides of leaves where they will suck sap by putting in their little mandibles and sucking it out, and that is what can cause leaves to kind of curl and pucker and distort. Left unchecked, aphids can weaken plants, stunt growth, and perhaps most worryingly, they can spread viruses and diseases as they move between plants and around the garden. Aphids also produce a sticky, sugary substance, a waste product called honeydew, and that can create a sticky substance that attracts things like sooty molds, which is not great. And if you ever notice ants climbing up and down the stems of plants, well, they are probably on the lookout for aphids to actually farm. They eat the honeydew that they secrete and in turn protect the aphids from predators. To think that aphids are basically the livestock of ants is quite incredible, if also a bit annoying. So what is to be done about it all then? Well, the single most effective thing you can do is to get into the habit of checking plants regularly. I like to do this as I am watering my plants. It is something I have to do anyway. And I can just look around the shoot tips on the undersides of leaves and generally inspect plants as I move through with the watering can or hose. Aphids love to hide, and catching a small infestation before it explodes into something bigger is so much easier than trying to deal with the aftermath. Something else to look out for are the shed exoskeletons of aphids. They shed their skins just like a snake. Now, these can look a bit like whitefly to the untrained eye, but they are, yes, there they are, the old casings. Look for them on the undersides of leaves, but also where they fall down just beneath the plant itself too. If aphids have been producing a lot of honeydew, then when you come to water that plant, it can sometimes cause the water runoff to be a bit kind of cloudy or milky. And of course, another sign to look for is those ants. Now tell me, which plants do you find that aphids show the most interest in? Let me know in the comments below. The moment you spot aphids, it is time to act. Don't leave it hoping they will move on, because invariably they won't, and it can take a while for pest predators to catch up. Aphids can spread with extraordinary speed. One aphid can give birth to up to 80 new aphids every single week. And get this, if it is warm weather, they don't even need to mate to do so. That is right, aphids can be produced without any hanky-panky ever being involved, giving rise to all female aphids that are basically clones. That, my green-fingered and thumbed friends, is how aphids spread so fast, so clearly. Spotting them early really matters. Thankfully, at this early stage, you have got a few options. Now, if there is just 1 or 2 little aphids like that, you can just simply rub them off between your finger and thumb or just pick off the affected growth. It is a bit squeamish, but you have literally nipped the problem in the bud. If the problem is a bit more dispersed, then you can just cut off the growth and remove all of the aphid-infected leaves with it. This can safely go on the compost heap, but just tuck it down into the heat to make sure it is properly covered. One trick with broad beans is to remove the very tops of the plants once the very first pods have started setting down below. That way you know that no more flowers are going to form and you are just removing the top growth. Why am I doing this? Well, this growth here is beautiful and soft, so it is perfect territory for the black bean aphid. But by removing it, they are not going to get a chance to colonize my beans. And these tops, by the way, they make surprisingly good eating. Try them stir-fried or lightly wilted and pop them into your diet for some lovely greens. A double bonus. One of the most underrated tools in the humble gardener's arsenal is the garden hose here. Now we want to get a good strong jet to blast the aphids off. Something like that probably won't do, but a flat or cone shape, those kind of settings you never really use, work very well. And just blast the aphids off like that, there we are, and down onto the ground. Now aphids, bless them, are pretty feeble creatures, so once they hit the ground, they probably won't be able to get back up. Go over plants that are badly infected every couple of days for about a week, and you will probably get on top of the problem without ever involving any nasty chemicals. And now we are getting to the really clever stuff because the most powerful aphid control isn't in a bottle or a hose. It is out there in your garden if you give it a reason to show up. Ladybirds, lacewings, hoverflies, parasitic wasps, ground beetles, these are all your allies and they all carry a huge hunger for aphids. Did you know, for example, that a single ladybird can eat up to 50 aphids a day and their larvae are even more voracious? Over their lifetime, they can consume up to 5,000 aphids. That is not so much feeding of the 5,000 as the 5,000 being fed on. Parasitic wasps lay their eggs inside the aphids, which are then consumed from the inside out. Sometimes nature is deliciously grim like that. And hoverfly larvae, well, they are absolutely tiny aphid-eating machines. The key is to attract these beneficial bugs into your garden and then keep them there. And the best way to do that is, of course, flowers. Simple, single-flowered plants are best because their pollen and the nectar are easily accessible. Now, my absolute go-tos in the vegetable garden are these guys here. Beautiful, honey-scented sweet alyssum, and then over there, those glorious poached eggplants, and I really love calendula and French marigold as well. These are just a few of the companion flowers recommended in our garden planner. And once you have chosen what you would like to grow, it is very easy just to select it and drop it into your plan. Drop these aphid antagonists here and there, wherever there is space throughout your vegetable garden, and really attract your predators like a big flowery magnet. Flowering herbs are also fantastic predator attractors as well, so let things like dill, fennel, parsley, thyme, and say mint go to flower. They not only look great, but you can still harvest the herbs as well. Just a little word of caution. Try to avoid buying in beneficial bugs and then releasing them into the garden because they will probably just fly away if they don't have suitable habitat. Get the habitat and the flowers correct, and then they will find you and then they will stay with you. Now, I said earlier about acting the very moment you see aphids, but if you do know there are pest predators around, you can relax a bit. I was growing some peppers once, and they had an infestation of aphids on the tips, but I also saw a ladybird close by. I left them alone, and they took care of those aphids, and a week later, they were all gone. Sometimes the smartest move is just to stop aphids from reaching your plants in the first place by creating a physical barrier. Using something like fine insect mesh or row cover or fleece to keep aphids off susceptible plants like brassicas can be a smart move. This is especially worth doing in early to midsummer when winged aphids are more likely to be on the move, and they can spread diseases. Now at this time, there are diseases like cucumber mosaic virus flying around, and we want to avoid that. Some plants are more susceptible than others, so prioritize covers for the likes of spinach, cucumber, celery, and brassica plants as well. Remove covers when crops need to be pollinated when they are in flower, and do be sure to check underneath covers from time to make sure that you are not inadvertently trapping the aphids under there and stopping them from escaping, rather than vice versa. A healthy plant in good soil, watered consistently and growing in the right location, is going to be a lot less susceptible to aphid damage than a plant that is struggling. Think of it a bit like our own immune systems. If we get enough sleep and we eat the right things, well, we are going to be much less susceptible to infections. So build good soil by applying plenty of garden-made compost. Go easy on the nitrogen-rich fertilizers, which can encourage lots of soft, sappy growth, which the aphids absolutely love. Water consistently rather than erratically, and try and match up plants with the growing conditions they love. So in this case, my salad's nice, rich, moisture-retentive soil. Get the growing conditions right and the pressures from aphids will drop dramatically. For a powerful punch against aphids, use this stuff here. It is Castile soap. Now I am going to dissolve just 1 teaspoon into a spray bottle like this and add 500 ml, that is half a liter or 1 pint of water, and then mix it all up. Get the lid in place and screw it on, and then give it a good shake. Now this stuff is particularly good for really quite bad infestations. It works by covering the aphids and then literally suffocating them. It is a cheap, cost-effective, and at-hand solution, and it shouldn't do any harm to your plants. Now, if all else fails and you want to reach for the nuclear option to deal with the most severe infestations of all that are making you lose all hope, then I have one final solution for you. It is this stuff here, and it is called neem oil. This is the most lethal of all, and it works by disrupting the aphid's life cycle. It stops them from maturing and it stops them from laying eggs. The oil smothers them, so it suffocates them. And if that wasn't enough, it stops them from feeding as well, so they literally starve to death. It is probably the most grim option of all, but it is natural and it is ideal for the really bad infestations that you do sometimes get. But please only use either of these sprays as a last resort because natural enough as they are and ecologically sound, they can also sometimes impact beneficial insects. And of course, we need those guys on hand to help us keep the aphid populations down in the first place. Whether you choose to use Castile soap or neem oil, always try to spray in the evening when pollinating insects and beneficial insects have settled down for the evening. Try to avoid spraying anywhere near flowers so that bees don't get a mouthful of it. Do it on a still evening, so there isn't drift everywhere, and be as targeted as you can, only spraying those infested parts of the plant and not dousing it willy-nilly all over the place. To be honest, I rarely reach for the spray bottle myself. I find that a combination of sharp eyes, fast action, and a garden full of beneficial bugs usually sees me through the season without too much of a problem. And I reckon if you can tolerate a few aphids, if they don't cause any immediate severe threat to your plants, then it is worth doing that because this natural presence of prey will help to attract their predators, which in turn will just help to create a more natural, healthy ecosystem in your garden. Now, if you have got a tried and tested method for dealing with aphids, I would love to know about it, so please do drop me a comment below. And why not try out the garden planner that I showed you earlier with our free 7-day trial? You don't need to put in any payment details or anything like that, and it is a great way to try out all of its clever features, such as its companion planting feature here, or the inbuilt planting, sowing, and harvesting calendar, which is put together by taking data from your nearest weather station. Just head on over here to put it through its paces, and I will catch you next time. If these strategies have changed the way you look at the pests in your garden, please subscribe and like the video. We are uncovering the natural methods that history tried to hide. Let's grow a healthier future together. The next garden treasure will be revealed soon.